Hello friends, back with me at Chanel Story Friend. In this film I will tell you a storyline, an action film called Tainted which will be released in 2020. This film tells about a former assassin who has just been released from prison, and intends to retire from the underworld, but his connection to the past still haunts him, until he has to clash with his own best friend. So what's the complete storyline? So without lingering any longer, let's get straight to the storyline. The film begins by showing the situation after the massacre of one of the gangster groups, which was killed by an assassin, until because of his actions the assassin, named Lance, had to be sentenced to 15 years in prison. After being free, Lance decided to retire from his job as a contract killer, and chose to work as a blacksmith, but he is always vigilant, because the gangster group he killed 15 years ago must still hold grudges against him, and that's why now Lance always carries a gun, which is always beside him. Then the scene moves to a man named Gregor. He is a close friend of Lance, and it is known that he is the head of the drug mafia, who is camouflaged as a baker. One day Gregor pretends to deliver orders, which turns out he is going to make a transaction with drug dealers there. Then after making a transaction, they smuggled all the drugs under their car.
You stick to the speed limit, use a double count, make sure he's not trying to short us.
The next day Gregor met a man named Vladimir. Vladimir himself was the head of the gangster who 15 years ago, his men had been killed by Lance. Meanwhile Vladimir's goal was to meet Gregor, namely to tell if Gregor's friend, namely Lance, was free from prison. He also said that if Lance wants to live freely and peacefully, then he must carry out a mission for him, namely to slaughter one of the gangster groups named the Arya Brothers. From the photo it is also known that while in prison, Lance had joined the Aryan group, and it can be seen from the Nazi tattoo on his chest, and if Lance succeeds in carrying out the mission, then his gangster group will not hold grudges against him anymore. The next day, it was seen that Lance was about to go to a tattoo shop to remove his tattoo. He did this on purpose, because at this time he really wanted to retire and not be involved in the criminal world anymore. But at that time the tattoo artist refused, because he knew and wanted nothing to do with the Aryan group.
Not sure we can help you with that.
In the evening, when Lance was buying kisses at a bar, he suddenly felt very amazed by the voice of a woman who was singing there, and it was known that the woman who was singing was named Anna. After returning home and heading to his rented room, Gregor and his men were already waiting for him. At that time, Gregor said that he was ordered by Vladimir to massacre the Aryan gangster group, and if Lance succeeds in carrying out the mission, then Vladimir's group will not exact revenge on him. At first Lance refused, then said that he had retired as a contract killer, but when Gregor had prepared an advance payment, Lance finally agreed, until when Gregor had left, Anna came, who turned out to be her own neighbor.
Good night.
The next day Lance broke into a parked car to go to Arya's headquarters. Then after arriving Lance showed the tattoo to the CCTV, until the headquarters gate was immediately opened. There he was greeted by the Aryan group, which this gangster group has its own characteristics, the same one, namely bald head. At that time Lance explained that he only came here to join them, after being released from prison, but not long after they suddenly talked. After successfully slaughtering them all, without Lance knowing it, It turned out that there was a child who witnessed the incident, and because Lance felt that the contents were in order, he directly contacted Gregor to ask for payment. After successfully carrying out the mission, Lance also planned to remove the tattoo with an iron, because Lance didn't want to be tense, and to ease the pain, he drank as much kiss as possible, then immediately ironed his chest. After realizing that Lance had been unconscious for 12 hours, at that time Lance decided to leave the city and start a new life in another city. But when he was about to leave, he accidentally saw Anna, who was very drunk at that time. Then Lance took Anna to her room, then Anna told her that she was not well, and it was known that Anna was a child who had no parents, who had been looking for food by singing from cafe to cafe since she was little, because Lance felt sorry for her Anna, he also gave his music box, then immediately left there.
Shortly after that, Anna, who felt like the item given by Lance, intended to express her gratitude in person, but when Anna approached Lance's room, it turned out that Lance was not there, so Anna had to leave a piece of paper, which contains a message on the front door of Lance's room. In another place, when Gregor was at his bakery, he was again visited by Vladimir, who at that time said that if Lance had left a witness, when he finished off Arya's group, at that time Vladimir was very afraid that Lance would be caught by the police, so his name would be dragged into the murder case, and even though Gregor had assured Vladimir that Lance would not be caught, Vladimir was still very worried, to the point where Vladimir ordered Gregor to kill Lance, or if not, his own wife's life would be at stake.
What you don't know, and anyone associated.
Because his wife received a threat, Gregor also mobilized his men to hunt Lance, until when they arrived, they divided the tasks, where only 2 people would go inside, and 2 more people would guard outside. Then after arriving in front of the room Lance, the 2 men also found the message, and immediately entered by force, because they were sure that Lance would soon be home soon. Meanwhile, one of them would go to the place written on the message, to kill Anna, because they thought that Anna was Lance's closest person.
She's at the smokestack. Okay, we'll go to her.
Not long after that, when Lance had come home, and was about to enter his room, he was beaten up by 2 of Gregor's men. Just before they killed Lance, Gregor called to convey his apology, but coincidentally Lance saw the contents of the message from Anna, who was already lying on the floor, because of that, now Lance is trying to fight to finish them all. After his 2 friends managed to Lance off, now there were only 2 people named Malik and Peter left. At that time, when Malik had escorted Peter to the cafe in question, he immediately returned to his original location, and because his 2 friends did not inform him, he called them, but the phone was never answered, because he felt suspicious that Malik also tried to enter, and it turned out that he found that his 2 friends were dead. Then Malik immediately called Gregor, to report that Lance had managed to escape. Then Rage felt that his men were incompetent. He decided to intervene, then asked permission from his wife that he had urgent business. In another place, when Lance had arrived at the cafe in question, he saw that there was Peter, Gregor's men, who was waiting for Anna there. He immediately approached him and said, "Don't interfere in his affairs if you want to be safe." But at that time Peter was not afraid of Lance's threat, until Lance had to invite him to a duel in the bathroom. On the other hand, Anna, who was curious about what Lance was doing, dared to look inside. There Anna didn't expect it. If Lance, who looked quiet, turned out to be someone who was very brutal in killing people. Then at that time Lance explained that he forced to finish him off. To protect himself, then told Anna to call the police immediately, but when Anna was about to call the police, suddenly, after successfully catching Anna, Gregor told Malik to call Lance. Then after that he had to kill Anna. At that time Malik directly contacted Lance, to listen to Anna's voice, and according to Gregor's orders, Malik had to kill her right then and there. Not long after that, Malik was picked up by Gregor to kill Lance together, but suddenly Lance called Gregor, then said that he was challenging all of them, at the place promised, and it didn't take long for Gregor's men to arrive at the location. First, suddenly, after seeing that one person was lying there, Gregor confirmed that the person was Lance, but when Gregor checked it, it turned out that the person was not Lance. After killing all of his men, now all that's left is Gregor, who at that time entered the empty factory. Lance immediately tried to catch up and look for Gregor, who was hiding at that time, but when Lance was off guard, Gregor managed to shoot him, and so did on the contrary. Because of that now they were both injured, but at that time Gregor ran out of bullets, so Lance quickly finished him right then and there. Anna was seen in another place, who was apparently still alive, and that could have been Malik's shot missed, or what, but what is clear is that Anna survived. There Anna looked very angry at Lance, until when she slammed the music box given by Lance. She was very surprised because it turned out that the music box contained a lot of money. Then the film was over.